Carver.
How's it going, Jeff?
You know, I'm so happy to see you, my friend.
I always say the same.
I feel like every time I see you, you become more handsome. I don't know what it is, or maybe I'm just like, this infatuation for our friendship is just growing, but...
The bromance is real, guys. I'm not gonna lie.
I think the hair, like you cut it, like we chopped it all off at one particular point, but I think it's kind of growing into what is your hairdo.
Yes. I actually had that feeling, that sense of it, because I was supposed to get a haircut, right? My schedule, I had lined it up to be the first week of the month. And then I said, you know what? I like it where it is now at the 4th week. I said, I'm actually going to wait another 4 weeks and then bring it back to this.
So it's funny you say that.
Yeah.
I love having short hair. Gloria, on the other hand,
really
kind of likes it a little longer. So you'll notice that it's more slick back.
It is a little more
because
slick back.
It's getting long and it does this kind of swoopy wave thing that drives me crazy.
Oh no!
So I have to put some goop in it.
You had to buy some goop.
Putty or whatever. I had to buy some goop. Since my friend, that's you by the way, used the last of my goop.
I did. Yes. I mean, there was like one use of goop left in there.
To be fair, I think I had that thing of goop for like 2 years prior to you using it. So
now here's pro tip.
Yes,
because
I love a pro tip.
I have used plenty of goop in my long-haired years. A conditioner like leave-in is the best hair gel ever because one, it's not a mess when you're done with it, and it's actually good for your hair. That's what I've always used is leave-in conditioner. It's so good.
And so when you're out drying your hair, you just style it, and for the most part, it stays.
So usually in the morning, I just get it wet with a spray bottle, and then I get like 2 fingers, grab some, mix it.
Okay.
Just like, use it like hair gel, but it's not hair gel, which is toxic for your hair, dries it out, makes it frizzy and gross.
I don't know why we haven't discussed this. Are you a shower in the evening kind of guy?
I am a shower in the evening
Interesting. I'm a
guy.
shower in the morning kind of guy.
Of course you are.
I can't start the day without a shower.
You cannot do it?
So odd.
And I feel so weird. If I take a shower in the morning, I'm like damp, and I'm putting clothes on damp, and it just doesn't line up with me. I can't do it.
All right.
It feels weird.
There you have it, folks.
Now you know. Now you know.
Not only are you hearing 2 God-fearing men talk about life and their trials and tribulations, you're now getting hair styling tips from Carver.
And shower habits.
And yeah, I don't know
that's
why.
Appropriate.
Yeah, totally appropriate on a Tuesday afternoon. But who knew we were going to do this? But we're doing it.
God knew. That's about it.
That's right. That's right.
Beyond that.
So, today's topic, we ended relationships part 3 last week. This week we were very much TBD, and at the end of the episode you will find out why we were TBD, but we finally landed on a particular topic, and that topic is addressing the unaddressed, which is actually our keynote for our overarching message, or maybe keynote's the wrong word. Maybe it's mantra,
like our
tagline, hashtag.
Yeah, something that was like, it was really what kind of gave identity to the podcast, is we're here to talk about the things that nobody likes to talk about because that's what's important. Speaking of things that need to be talked about, which are important, I got a very special message for a very special someone. So
special is a very nice way to put it.
It is very special.
And she will appreciate that.
I'm sure she will. So, Julia, last week I totally opened the lid on our prayer ministry, bus ministry, and I didn't include you in it. Not really sure why. I just should have, and I'm just so sorry. I need you to know that whole thing you were always a part of it. At the beginning of it, when I had the idea of it, you were there, that I saw us both going on that. It was never a solo venture. I never wanted it to be. You know, it was really something that we were supposed to do, and it was even, as you know, now everybody else is going to know, one of the first things I asked you when we met, and I had to do this whole bold, like, hey, my name's this, you know, and we introducing each other. So you were obviously a part of that from literally the very beginning, and I just had to make that clear.
Hi, my name's Carver. You want to do a prayer ministry with me? Nothing sounds more inviting to a dating situation than that. And that's how your relationship was born.
A lot, yeah. That was a huge part of it. So let's go do that. We're going this Saturday and it's going to be great.
So we will definitely need to hear updates as this thing progresses. So I look forward to hearing updates on that sweet action. So did you decide on what bus route you will be taking?
We still haven't nailed that down yet. I kind of, we need to go over like which beach we're going to go to and then pick a time and coordinate all of those things. But, it's right there. It's kind of one of those things that you kind of just let it happen. But I want it to be structured, but it's going to be...
You got to have a little structure.
It's good. Yeah, I have to. I'm definitely a planner. I can't just go super blind into something like that. So yeah, we are going to have it, but like I said, it's not just... we haven't ironed every little detail out, but it's coming.
TBD.
Saturday.
Can't wait.
For sure. Saturday.
Good stuff. So, we'll jump right into it as we're hitting the 7-minute mark, addressing the unaddressed. So we, during our pregame, or pre-show as I like to say, when Carver and I are sitting here in the new and improved studio, does anyone notice the new setup that we have here?
It's so much better, by the way. I mean, again, props to Jeff for putting in the time and getting here to set all this stuff up. I helped a little bit over the weekend, but he put the fine touches on it. I mean, when I walked into the studio today, I'm like, it's a studio now. This is not a rinky-dink, just stuff some equipment in a spare room. This is where things happen.
This is where things happen, right here. This is where magic happens, So appreciate the kind word, and hopefully everyone at home can appreciate the effort put into it. Carver, thank you for coming over and helping play muscle. And
of course. What else do I do?
It's tough to do on your own, and I appreciate you making that extra effort. So while we were doing this, you came to me as soon as we concluded moving everything around, coming to our topic matter this evening of addressing the unaddressed, and you delivered to me
some news. There was, and let me just preface that with a lot of my spiritual walk was always a very solo one, very monk-ish, if you would. I always viewed
It's good, monkish.
Monkish.
Yeah, I like that.
Julia, props to you for that. I'm not going to take credit for that one. No. She pointed that out. I'm just doing that now. So, I don't want... That doghouse was rough enough the first time I spent, a night in there, so... Not going back to that. Credit where it's due.
In our men's group today specifically, in our men's group, one of our guys was talking about how him and his wife have had challenges on their level of communication. And he shared with the group today, his name's Ronnie, he's a wonderful individual. Ronnie, props to you. He goes, I want to update the group on when my wife talks to me, I put my phone down, I put my paper down, I don't look at my laptop. I am all in what she has to say. Boy, what the transformation is in their relationship. So, bravo, Ronnie. Love you, brother. And I'm so happy that things between you and the wife couldn't be better now that you're giving undivided attention. So,
sticks with you.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and you only have to learn the hard way so many times.
Right.
Myself included. So.
Exactly. When they're that worth it, you just don't want. You want to skip to the not having to again learn those lessons. So yeah, so my spiritual walk was very a personal one. I always had the belief that. And again, a belief that if I'm going to be this really good, solid Christian person, I just don't bother anybody else. Because it's not my job to tell you, you, how to be a Christian.
That's right.
Not to, again, I just never felt like that was the way it was supposed to be. A lot of us Christians these days, we all go off of our feelings and, what we think we're supposed to be doing. But turns out, Scripture has a whole accountability portion to it.
No doubt.
And, that was something I had to learn, that if you actually want to, as we talked about for 3 weeks, foster healthy relationships, well, there is a side of it that you have to be accountable, not just for yourself, but also reach out and help somebody, which we touched on it last week.
That's right.
But making that a reality in my life, because again, I'm very anti-confrontational. I don't like to, stir the pot, as you would say. I try to always have relationships that are healthy, and then just hope that they stay that way, and then again put all the effort into myself to be as good as I could be without extending that out. So
Because it's tough to address the unaddressed, right? For fear of rejection, for fear of hurting someone's feelings, there's lots of fear invoked with having to tell someone what they are doing isn't right by God, and that's a very difficult discussion to have with anyone.
It is a difficult thing, and I'm not going to go into the details of why I brought this stuff up, but it was like a couple of different things that I had noticed over the past, let's say 6 weeks that I was like, something happened, I wanted to talk about it, but again, I was like, we have this podcast together, we have, our friendship, I didn't want to I was too afraid to tarnish any of that. I wasn't willing to give those up to do the right thing. I was too selfish to say, well, I want to make sure that I maintain all about me,
right?
These things, so I'm not going to go out on a limb. And, it kind of ties into, there's a lot of verses in the Bible that talk about how we should be accountable to each other, right? To just being that tough love kind of scenario. And, again, it's like, so there's the first one I kind of want to talk about is like the Cain and Abel story. That's really just how, like, a solid relationship, I mean, obviously the first two brothers that are spoken of in the Bible, how they one of them ends up dead, by the hand of the other one. And I'm not saying that's what this situation was at all, but just to bring that up.
Don't kill me.
Yeah, I'm not, I don't plan on it. But, that's where it's an how relationships can end up. And really, all of these verses after that is just how to prevent that kind of thing from happening, right? So Matthew 18:5 is a really good one that I wanted to talk about, that like, if your brother or sister sins, and that's very broad, and I think it's meant to be like that. If they're doing something that, again, you see is a sin, is wrong, then you go and point out their fault just between the two of you, right? That's a really big part of it, that you're not making it a public spectacle, because that's not the point.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Yep.
Yeah. The point is that you connect with them and you do you address something that just hasn't been addressed. You kind of find comfort in the discomfort of that uncomfortable situation.
Well, and not only that, you address it, but you do it in the most lovingly way you can, because ultimately, we're not here to judge. You're not here to judge me. I'm not here to judge you. And if you go into it with the mindset that I'm judging you, you're already in the wrong in the first place. It's more of just checking your friend or your partner to make sure that they are walking with God. And when you see them get out of sequence with God, that's when you jump in and you go, hey, notice this, want to bring it to your attention. And then more often than not, if they're aligned with God properly, then they go, oh, okay. Thank you for checking me on that.
Right, and that's actually a really good point. I didn't think about that. If there is something fundamentally wrong, it'll expose that. It'll actually help bring more things to light. And, the idea that kind of the end of that verse is if they listen to you, you've won them over. That there is a victory in that. But if they don't, then again, you can kind of get to the core, like the root of an issue, and again, all in the effort of showing them love and trying to, again, keep them out of Shawshank, right? That was like the biggest thing, is all of us that have been through those trials, we don't ever want to see anyone go back. So that's really the calling, is just kind of everyone building that safety net that we were talking about. And this is how those bonds are kind of created.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Exactly.
So I recently had a similar situation, and it's funny. Carver had his dialogue with me.
And it went great, by the way. I mean, it went great.
And I had my dialogue with him, and do you remember what I told you? I said, the dialogue, my addressing the unaddressed with you, was the appetizer to what was to come.
Yeah.
And I recently had a friend who, I won't say recovering alcoholic, but was an alcoholic for a long period of time, and was free of alcohol for a long period of time, and just told me recently that he was going to start dabbling back into booze.
It's tough.
And the second that I heard this, red alarms, critical mass, like, we got to jump on this thing immediately.
What do we do?
So I had shared with Carver that I needed to talk to him, and then we finally had the dialogue, and I'm like, well, this is the precursor to this huge monumental thing that I got to talk to my friend about. And it's hard.
But you did a little bit of training in the dojo before you went to
I got
battle.
some. I'm gonna draw a blank on the name. The Karate Kid sensei. Wax on,
Mr. Miyamoto.
Miyagi. Mr. Miyagi, yes.
Mr.
And
Miyagi.
wax on, wax off. Paint the fence. Paint the fence.
Yeah. Right.
And so, as soon as Carver and I had our dialogue, I was at peace with it. I believe you were at peace with it. And I'm like, okay, well, God, this was the warm-up. This was the appetizer to me having this dialogue. And so I went in with Bible verses, pre-scripted. I didn't necessarily have them memorized, but I had a few that I was going to go to if need be. I brought my Bible with me.
Wow.
Sat down, and I just shared, we both have been addicted to alcohol. Like, I came into the story like we have commonality here, and I go, for you to jump back on, I couldn't do that because I know if I were to partake,
it's just too tough.
That in its own right would be such a slippery slope, and then all of a sudden it's like, I only had one, I only had two. Well,
and what do you gain? Yeah, what's always the outcome with booze? Like you're either so stressed out, because I've been there too. I mean, I don't drink because I know if I do, like we've had this, I just don't, because if I do, I'm playing that battle the whole time, and I hate it. I hate feeling like
the dice.
And they're like, every single one of them is a snake eyes except like a corner of one of them. It's like a 20-sided die where one of them is I don't just suffer. It's suffering, It's like, and again, why even do that?
Yeah, and I think to me, like to one of the points I made in episode 3, could have been 4, where I am this perfectionist. I want everything to be as neat and as tidy as it can possibly be, to where if I'm completely on the wagon, if I have any slip off the wagon, then I'm just going to stay off the wagon, because that
it's dismantled your idea.
It's completely dismantled. It's like the stamina of being perfect, of not drinking, and not saying that not drinking is being perfect, but that track record of not drinking, hitting, your batting average is 100, of not drinking, and then you slip up. It's like, oh, well, I just sinned, so I can just keep sinning. And my brain, it gets too messy.
I chuckled a little bit because there's a Bible app that I use, and it keeps a streak of how many days in a row.
Or YouVersion.
YouVersion.
It does keep a streak, yes.
I had like 200 days.
You just invited me recently, I think.
Yeah, I did. I had like 200 days in a row going.
Wow, dude, that's solid.
And I missed a day, and I exactly went through that. Like, I don't even want to use this Bible app anymore because I'm at 0, and that feels awful.
Mm-hmm. It's like you lost the race, kind of deal.
I shook that off really quick because I'm like, okay, no. But yeah, that feeling of I've invested, all of a sudden it becomes an investment and all these different things, that like, how could I have, let that go? Or I don't know, just a funny little afterthought.
Yeah, no doubt. So, sit down, have the dialogue with them. No real pushback, appreciative of me delivering the news. He said he's going to pray about it, and I thought for certain the message I conveyed and delivered was the best I absolutely could convey and deliver. And I ended the dialogue saying, nothing but love, and I'm praying for you, and we just want the best for you. That's the whole reason why I brought this up. And he later on texted me the next day and said, you know what, you're right. I don't really see any positivities to it whatsoever, and
that's so good.
Because of that, he's back on the wagon.
Thank goodness. Yeah. Because I almost wanted to like drill that. I was getting started. Like, there's nothing you gain from it, Yeah. Like, if it's not a sin in your life, cool. Enjoy that freedom, if it's not a sin for you. But once it crosses over into like a stronghold that the enemy has, you just can't. You just can't.
That's right. Yeah. So one verse in particular that I did bring to the equation was Proverbs 27:17. Iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And that is what we are to do as God-fearing individuals, for friends, family members that are walking down that straight and narrow with God. If we see our friend, get strayed from
get a little dull.
Get a little dull. Yeah, you got to go over there and just sharpen them, but you got to do it in a loving way.
One thing to note about that is when you're, if you think about that action, there's friction and sparks fly. Which is just to, I think, emphasize the point that it is uncomfortable and that there will be some tension, and just expect that. And if there isn't and it goes smoothly, praise God. But walk into it with that expectation that, hey, yeah, this could go awry. So that's why you kind of equip yourself with all of those tools of just having that mindset of being really loving, understanding. Again, there's a lot of homework that goes into it. I know when we had our dialogues, we both put a lot of homework into making sure that we presented it as best as we could, that we respected. And that's really what I think it's based off of, is respect.
Yep, I agree. Yep. 100%.
That not saying something is just as disrespectful as saying it in the wrong way.
Well, and it goes back to what we said. You can have a plethora, and we all have these surface level relationships where you never really dive in to tell them, hey, you got a booger in your nose, or you got a piece of parsley on your teeth. We all have those friends. It's I'm not gonna go tell that guy that he's got parsley on his teeth, but ultimately, you're not doing them any favors by holding on to what is truth, and you should share the truth. That's what we are called to do. So praise God that particular situation worked out, and even for us that our two situations worked out.
I mean, totally. I mean, it was. What's interesting is you said it was kind of a warm up. Yeah, later on that day, I actually drove down. I drove down to my parents.
That's right.
I saw you on Saturday, and I had to have a kind of that next level conversation down there, which felt the same. It felt like this. This was. I didn't draw that conclusion there, but I knew okay, I gotta have two pretty big talks. But yes, this one was awesome and great, and it ended well. It wasn't awkward or anything, and then had to go down there and really get into much more deeper, older issues, and it was a little more intense. I'll just say that.
No doubt.
But still very healthy, very much needed, and very healing, and still a very positive outcome, like you said.
Yeah.
We had the same thing amongst my family, too, that we had the next day. The conversation after that, we were not really sure if it went well, and then the next day it was wow, everything went well. That was worth it, So yeah, same kind of thing. It always works out if you take that risk, to do the right thing, to do what God calls us to do. It does pay,
Yeah, and there's kind of two things I wanted to touch on what you just said there. One is if you're going to go have this dialogue with someone from many years ago, no, that is going to be light years more difficult than diving on something that just took place last week or last month, so to speak. So just know that those feelings have been harbored for a long period of time, and so when you go and start digging up that dead body to then talk about it, just know that it's going to be more challenging, but it still should be addressed, especially if it's weighing on your heart. There's a reason why it's weighing on your heart, because God wants you to talk about it.
He wants you to pull it out.
The second point that I wanted to bring up, and Gloria is just so tightly connected to God. Anytime that she speaks wisdom into me, I just I need to take a page out of Ronnie's book and just put everything down and go, yes, honey, tell me more. Because she is just so connected, and she had shared with me that when someone is delivering truth to you and they get fired up about it, it's because they have a demon or a skeleton or chains bonding them to a particular topic.
Fired up in a negative way, they're getting hot,
they're getting hot.
Oh.
They're frustrated that you're bringing this up. They're frustrated because they know that this is a pain point in their life that they have not worked on, and that is the Holy Spirit working within them, because know that this is an issue, but they're not ready to address it. So therefore,
Wow.
The anger level gets risen.
Like the refiner's fire.
The refiner's fire to protect that thing that they don't want to address. And that's even happened in my own life with Gloria and I here recently. And, you know, and I'd shared with you some of the things that we had talked about that still, you know, resonated. And those are things that I'm going to, you know, continue to work on probably for the rest of my life. But, you know,
like sometimes when you're in that.
You know, you're a Taurus and you're stubborn, and let's say I'm pretty stubborn. So, but day by day.
Yeah. And you got a good network of people that, you know, that's the whole building a safety net of good positive friends that are going to help you out.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. So, kind of on this same vein, I haven't really spent much time chatting about my birth mom.
That's true.
Patty, and I don't know why, but when we were kind of brainstorming for today's episode of addressing the unaddressed, and you know, kind of as we morph more towards into relationships long term, I've talked about Patty before. I don't know if I've ever said the name Patricia before, but Patty is my birth mom who gave me up. Respectfully gave me up because she was very young when she had me, and I thank God for
but thank God you're sitting there
being raised. Yeah. Well, yeah, and Gloria calls me an abortion survivor,
like Jack?
Which is pretty cool. Like Jack Hibbs, yeah. Shout out Jack Hibbs, Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills. Even though I was never on the docket for abortion, just the fact of having a young mother not suited to raise a child so young, to be given up for adoption, not only was that the respectable thing to do, especially in the 80s, early 80s, like, that's just what people did. It was, you know, free love and sex and not
deal
my problem.
With the consequences later.
Not my problem, right, exactly. And so the fact that I was adopted and given up to a very good God-fearing home. Shout out to Mom and my dad, Marty. I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah.
So
me too.
When Patty reached out to me at the age of 27, and I was like ecstatic to meet my birth mom, because I told you very early, since the third grade, like I wanted to meet my birth mom. And so we had some dialogue. She came out to Sacramento, and it was great. And I loved her the second I met her. And I was excited to have this relationship with her. And after her and my half-sister Bailey departed and went back to Maryland after their trip here in Sacramento, our relationship did not maintain. And it wasn't for my lack of trying to maintain a relationship. She just had a difficult time returning phone calls or texts or emails or what have you. And
it's kind of retreating a little bit.
I had such a tough time with that, because it's like, I've waited 27 years. Like, I want this relationship with my birth mom.
Yeah.
So fast forward to April 2021, so just a few months ago.
Yeah. About 10 years later, something like that?
Yeah, roughly. And she comes out, Patty and Bailey come out. My aunt and uncle, Aunt Betsy and Tim, AB&T, shout out to you guys. They came down, they rented a house in Newport Island. Balboa Island, in Newport Beach. And so I got to spend a whole weekend with them, and it was lovely, and it was great, and Gloria took some lovely pictures of us, and I took them to Chino Hills, I took them to Calvary, not Chino Hills just because of time, and so we went to Costa Mesa on that particular Sunday. But when we were departing church from Costa Mesa back to the island, I had a come to Jesus talk, or addressing the unaddressed.
Wow.
And I said, Patty, I'm really happy you're here, and I love you, and I want a relationship with you, but I need you to semi-desire a relationship back with me.
Yeah.
And I said,
I feel like I've been on the receiving end of one of those.
You have.
I know exactly what that feels like.
Part of addressing the unaddressed, right? And,
That's so funny.
and this is what is going to, inspire more of this relationship dialogue in the future, because everyone does desire relationships. Like,
more than we'd want to admit.
You don't want to be the monk sitting at home by yourself. No one wants to do that.
Sometimes it feels good, but nobody wants to be that forever.
Yeah, and maybe you do. Maybe you're an introvert, but even then, in small dosages.
Yes, and even the connections, as you're kind of alluding to, they might be short. Might not be long lived. But everybody wants to have somebody that knows them, I think, is really it. Because that's where that isolation can just kind of drive you crazy.
Look at pandemic time. All the isolation that we've had. Suicide rates are higher than ever. And why is that? Because
addiction rates and everything.
Lack of relationships. Lack of communication. Lack
blew
of
my mind right there. Yeah.
Having fellowship with fellow people.
Yeah,
if the restaurants are closed and you can't even just have that collaboration with people.
Right.
Even if you're not having interaction, just not feeling like you're surrounded by people, that plays a big toll on your mental state.
Right. And then then of course we all know churches got shut down. Basically any social gathering was affected by this, and some churches were brave enough to stay open. But a lot of relationships got strained because of that. I mean, I've heard of churches that basically collapsed. They just lost all their members and all their funding, and they're just out of a house, now because of that. And it's terrible, and I feel like that's something that is gonna be a ongoing thing, in the show, is talking about relationships.
No doubt.
That's where the core of, I think, everybody's desire is, whether they again admit it or not. Of course, as far as a show about guys, would have gone. Sometimes we don't want to admit it, that we want to have those friendships, but even just look at the trend. A lot of guys that I knew, you get out of high school, you have this wolf pack kind of thing.
The wolf pack,
and it goes from there. It goes to college, and I was a super just isolated. I didn't really have a big group of friends that I stuck with for a long time. But that's what I would see is I get these guys that stay in these packs because they want it, and even though they'd be so macho and so tough and have all these outer shells and layers and everything, deep down they wanted to have a bond with somebody and rely on them, brotherly bonds and things like that. But again, there's a lot of work involved in that, and for it to be healthy and beneficial and to have purpose. I feel too, a lot of times men and women both, their purposes are fulfilled when they're in a relationship that again, that's healthy and that is driven, of course, having a spiritual connection there. That's that right. Strand of 3 chords, in Ecclesiastes that it talks about is so fundamental. And even in Ecclesiastes as well, Ecclesiastes, I believe, 3, that it talks about how, when two are working together, one can pick up the other when they fall.
Right. Yep.
And how that is, you're so much stronger as a team and as a group like that, as a couple, rather than trying to do everything on your own. There's only so much 2 hands can do, 4 hands can lift way more. And that is a really important point that is going to be kind of a cornerstone of the conversations moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Is talking about that side of life that everybody really wants, and especially coming out of a pandemic and all that. I never even looked at it like that, Jeff, but I couldn't agree more that that's such a appropriate path to take.
Ecclesiastes 4, 9, and 10. 2 are better than 1, for if either of them falls, one can help the other up. So, yeah. And it's so true.
And the strand of 3 chords obviously is the 2 people and God at the center.
That's right.
That's what is the glue. Yeah.
Have to focus. So, I had this big dialogue with Patty on right after the church service concluded, and I go, I need you to participate in this relationship, because if it doesn't work for one, it doesn't work for none. Mm-hmm. And she heard it loud and clear, and we now play phone tag. But you know what? Hey, The fact is, we're playing phone tag.
Okay.
She's reciprocating, and I have a voicemail on my phone right now that I need to call her. And guess what? I'm going to say, hey, Patty, great to hear from you. You got to listen to this week's podcast because it's all about you.
Yeah. Is she a fan of the show?
She's not a fan. Well, she's not a fan because she doesn't know of the show.
Oh.
So.
Wow.
This will
I feel
be
like
her.
That could be a great.
This will be the toe in the water.
Yeah.
Yes. Hi, Patty. I love you and I miss you. By the way, there's an entire podcast. You're on the intrawebs, so you better watch it out.
Now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
So,
that's good.
it was a good dialogue to have, and it was great seeing her, and obviously, like having that sense of family here in Southern California. AB&T live up in north of Santa Barbara. I never remember the name, but it's quite the journey. But close enough. Okay. And then Patty lives in Maryland.
Santa Barbara is like 2.5 hours away.
Yeah, but they're like another hour beyond that. I want to say it's like 4 hours in total.
From the park. There.
Yeah, from the park up to.
So it's like a weekend thing.
It's definitely a weekend thing. Yeah, you're staying the night. You're not driving to and from kind of the deal. But they've offered up me to stay the night many times. So. Who knows? Maybe that's the next step in my chapter. Yes,
right.
Absolutely.
On the road, so to speak.
Yes. Kirk on the road. Speaking
Spoiler.
of which, spoiler alert. Wait for it. Carver?
There is an announcement that I wanted to make.
You want to address the
What
Unaddressed?
a great segue.
Oh,
yeah, I'm going to address the Unaddressed.
It's funny how that worked.
It does. So I had a pretty strong feeling that the show needed to evolve to its kind of go from the caterpillar into the butterfly. That Jeff and I both, 9 episodes in total, have really been trying to, again, foster, build a dream that we both had to have, a dialogue or an open, a way to communicate and, bring not only just, our presence on YouTube, but just that there was a calling to start something that was going to be, for God, and a big thing that, again, God could use to speak to those that we wanted to speak to, but we couldn't, of course, just be able to reach everybody. Anyway, we knew that this was something we wanted to do. Of course, a lot of moving parts, a lot of people were involved, and in these, 9 weeks, per se, that we've been doing this, I mean, how much it's grown. I mean, from the plastic Costco table, and the not even using the microphone. I mean, our first episode, God bless its soul. I mean, that thing, I'm sitting on the couch. He's sitting at the plastic desk. We have the microphone basically just not plugged in, essentially.
It was plugged in, but I forgot a switch to whatever.
to turn it on, yes. So just to see it go from there to here feels like a milestone in and of itself. That I could see this basically staying like this for a long time, this setup. It's not really going to have it.
I feel good with this setup. I'm looking around. I like this.
It's a good distance. We don't have mirrors behind us doing anything weird. We're not having shaky cameras.
The mirrors were the bane of my existence.
I know. And so I knew that I really had a feeling that this show was supposed to evolve into something else. It was ready for it to go into level 2. Kick it into a higher gear. So I really thought about it. And of course, Julia and I had been speaking about, a podcast, maybe not necessarily a podcast, but another, it was a YouTube channel that I had wanted to start 6 years ago, that the whole focus of it was really just on love. I mean, and really dissecting that and making that, if this show is about addressing the unaddressed and relationships, that the show the idea that I had, that I had wanted to start from 6 years about love. And I just never had the partner for that. And of course, when we started this thing, that kind of came up in my mind. But I'm can't really do a show about love with a dude. I mean, maybe it could, but that wasn't our dynamic.
No.
It was not.
No. And I don't think it will ever be our
dude. There's brotherly love going on and tough, but it's not that. Not again, I wanted to be able to look at love in a very wide angle lens. So Julia and I started talking about the idea of us having having a show or a channel or something together, and we actually recently talked about I kind of introduced like, hey, this is this thing I've had for a long time. Would you want to be on board with that? And of course, she was receptive to it. She likes the idea. So I said, okay, so now where is this show gonna go? And again, we were talking about it and said, okay, why this show, the relationships start that we created in those 3 weeks. I mean, and it's even come fuller into view. Like the lens got even clearer for me while we were even talking about this. That is so needed. That is the thing that God is trying to speak to people about, is fostering and having healthy relationships.
That's right.
And that this would turn into a show, like a 3-person show. Because remember we talked about that too, that we'd have guests on, but it was always a 3-person show, and we thought, okay, 1 guest. But instead, having a hosted show, single host, with a couple. Or again, it could be 2 brothers, could be a man and wife.
Different relationships
that are those promised land relationships. Because another thing we keep saying is, hey, we're not the experts. And the more we thought about it, like, yeah, we don't have that much data that we could sit here for an endless amount of time and just keep talking about it. So that's why I knew like there was something else that needed to come into the show, and that's really where this is going. So my big announcement is that Julia and I are going to be starting, in addition to the bus ministry, that was like from the beginning, that also God has kind of fostered us to take that into a new step, and that Jeff is going to be taking over the now Kirk and Company.
Kirk and Company, yes.
How much smoother of a transition could that have been?
It's pretty smooth, bro.
It's pretty good.
Smooth.
So he's going to take over that. I mean, it's at his place. It was just meant to kind of work this way, and that he could have, again, his show hosted by himself, and then have these these couples here that could come in and again just have those weekly discussions. And those are testimonies that can be shared forever. I mean,
it broadens the horizon of the audience, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not just our experiences, but now we're engulfing so many different other experiences into the show.
And really, again, adding all of the like color and life to something the layers. And it was tough. I mean, this was not a decision that I just easily made. I definitely had to wrestle with it for a while. That I'm like, because again, there's all that personal investment and all the like ideas that I had about what it was supposed to be and how we were going to do it and everything. But just giving that up, again, having that sense that God is like, this is just like your journey here ended here, and it was tough. But again, seeing what this is going to be through that, I couldn't be happier. I know this is going to be something I watch, that I'm going to now.
Well, I hope so. I hope so. You will need to like and subscribe and tell your friends.
I already am. But I will. Some shout-outs. We can be like sister shows,
yes. Well, and that's what I was thinking too. And at a certain point, once you and Julia get up and running with your show, whether it's a podcast or YouTube channel, whatever,
ends up
at a certain point, I'm going to have you guys on the show, because you are going to be a perfect candidate of sharing your experiences within your own show in your love situation as it is.
Yeah, and that's something I thought about too, that we could be kind of
you'd be a star guest.
Yeah,
a star guest.
That would actually be really cool.
That would be.
See that come back
very cool
down the line.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
So
there it is.
It's sad news that you're leaving the show, but it's positive news, because you have the world is your oyster, and what you have in your mindset to not only do for the prayer ministry, but for this love, call it spinoff, if you will, is going to just be exceptional. And I know that it's totally blessed by God, and I just can't wait to hear everything that unfolds in your life here in the next few weeks.
Thank you. I mean, it's definitely, it's one of those times where if you listen to my testimony, right, God always calls me to go on these journeys and make these big like leaps of faith outside of my comfort zone, which I even was kind of something I had prepared in my just mind and my heart this week, that this is going to be some just uncomfortable transition, that it is going to be like a season of harvest, that there's a lot of good things that are coming, but just kind of being ready for what that's going to look like. And I am super excited, and this is definitely one of those I'm like, we're taking a leap, but it's definitely, it's meant to be, and I'm not running away from it.
Yeah.
Like, we're going.
Good for you. Well, you know what? That is what I call addressing the unaddressed. So bravo to you.
Yeah.
So join me next week for Kirk and Company. Thank you, Carver.
Yeah.
And I'll still want an update so I can at least let the guests know what at least transpired with the prayer ministry. So you'll have to give me an update on that.
For sure. You know what I'm thinking? I might even record some footage while I'm there, and you can just clip that in. Okay. That could be cool.
Yeah, that would be a great idea. And I'm sure the fans would be interested. In fact, a guy, Ronnie again, at my men's group today said, Carver's going to do his own ministry. Like, God bless him. Like,
right.
So the fact that people are getting to know the Carver name, so
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
We'll make sure they get to know the God name too.
Well, any final words you want to say on your not last ever, but last Kirk and Carver? As a co-host,
just hey man, it's been fun. Like honestly, this is something that I could literally say I've waited, my whole life to just do this. To take something from the ground and build it up to where it is. I have thoroughly enjoyed that. It has strengthened not only my walk with the Lord, to just see him again deliver through all of the different things, but just to have somebody that I can look at and say, dude, we did whatever this is now, we did it. Yeah. We put the time in, we put the effort in, the thought, the care, all of that to get it here. And I'm super excited to see this thing go. Just go.
Yeah. And I will add to that, and I am just so blessed to have you in my life, and even at the capacity that we've shared, but can't wait to hear at what capacity that butterfly grows into.
Yeah, so. Right. Can only wait and see.
Yeah,
it's gonna
happy
be good
for you.
Thanks, man.
Good stuff. Well, he's Carver. I'm Kirk. We out.
Peace.